Welcome to the Fighting on Film podcast, the podcast all about classic and obscure war movies, from the Normandy landings to the days of chivalry and swords. If it's been captured on film, we're going to try and cover it. I'm Robbie of RM Military History.
I'm Matthew Moss of Historical Firearms and the Armourer's Bench.
Hello, welcome to this Fighting on Film post-WarFest special. Just me this week, but Matt will feature later on in the episode. So we just wanted to make this quick episode talking about WarFest, how we felt about it, sharing some of the Vox Pops that I recorded with some historians and some previous guests of the show. And we'll start off with when I caught up with Al and James. So we're here at WarFest, and I'm joined by Al Murray. If you remember, we interviewed him for Bridge Too Far, and we just finished the Bridge Too Far chat, Market Garden chat. So Al, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Apart from A Bridge Too Far, what's your favourite war film?
Oh, what a question. I think probably, and with all the caveats that goes with it, Dam Busters.
Ah, yes.
Because it's a film I watched a lot when I was a kid. And I think what's really, really interesting about it is when it was made, that thing was like a revelation as a behind the scenes thing about the war. But I also think that the key scene in the film is at the end where he says, "Right, I've got to go and write some letters," and the film still operates in the emotional landscape that I think was around in the 1940s, where, because we talk about this a lot on the podcast, people go, it was a bit of a rum-do. Officers saying that to each other, things got a bit hairy. Like Colin Bell speaking last night, talked like that. Yeah. The things, they all know they know exactly what that means. That it's just a different way of saying things were bloody terrible and absolutely terrifying. Yeah. And they're just talking in a lingua franca. They're not downplaying it. Everyone knows it's built on an understanding of a sort of emotional landscape that we don't occupy anymore. Yeah. And I think what's really interesting about Dam Busters is they do that, and Richard Todd was an army veteran, so he understood that whole thing. So I think, although it's this, in a way, the theme music with Dam Busters is the sort of red herring.
Yes.
In the way that the theme music with Great Escape, for instance, is a red herring, because people always think it's weird when people play that at a football match. Well, these guys were all murdered.
Yes, it's a bit. Yeah.
What? There's the disconnect there. So I think that's why I love Dam Busters, because I think it's an actually much subtler film.
Yes, it is.
Than people maybe give it credit for, and it tells a story. I mean, obviously they don't actually depict the upkeep, but they do. The nearest damn it do. And the raids are told in a sort of unvarnished way, where people crash into the sides of hills and.
Yes. Yeah.
There's
no punches pulled.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really interesting in such a mainstream film about the war. So I think Dam Busters would be my.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you very much. So we're here at WarFest. Probably said about 5 times now, but we're here. So we're joined by Al's right-hand man, James Holland.
How are you?
And obviously he did Objective Burma with us, and it was a corker.
Yeah, it was. What a film!
Yeah, it's incredible.
Surprisingly good.
Yes. So I've been asking everyone that I've been in finding and recording with. Apart from the movie that you covered with us, what's your favourite war film?
Oh gosh, it's a really tricky one. I mean, I just love the Battle of Britain because it's the Battle of Britain. Lots of Spitfires,
Yeah.
Decent chaps. I mean, what's not to like? So, I love that. TV series, it's got to be Band of Brothers, hasn't it? Really. I do think The Cruel Sea is a really stupendously good film.
One of my personal favourites.
I think for kind of accuracy, I think it's spot on. Most of the guys in it were of course served in the Second World War in various.
Shot at sea.
Yeah. Shot at sea, shot in a real corvette.
Yes.
Based on the novel by Nicholas Montserrat, who of course served in the Royal Navy in the Second World War in the Atlantic and Mediterranean himself. So it's got a sort of verisimilitude to it, which I think really, really runs deep. I think the other one is just stupendous. I wouldn't say it's my favourite, but Downfall is just unbelievably good.
Yes.
I've got to say, recent films, Jojo Rabbit has been right up there.
Yeah.
I thought that was absolutely fantastically good, and although it's a sort of fantasy, it actually, I think, gets the... In a way, it sort of more accurately gets the mayhem and madness of the end of the Third Reich better than something that's trying to be serious.
Yeah, there is something I
I
the
was
ending of it. It's
stunned by it, and I thought the ending was the most brilliant, amazingly uplifting ending of a film I've seen in many a long year. So I loved that film. I really, really loved it.
Thank you so much for joining us, James.
Thank you.
Fantastic choices by the chaps there. So now we'll go on to Robert Lyman and John Buckley with their choices. I'm joined by John Buckley and Robert Lyman, two of the top historians in their field. So I'd like to ask you chaps, what are your favourite war movies or war series?
Well, John's going to hate me for this, but I love the intensity of the human emotions and fury. Forget about all the infelicities and the inaccuracies and the absurdities. The best war films for me are not about accuracy, they're about highlighting the human emotions of war. And for that reason, this won't come as any surprise to you. The Band of Brothers really stands out for me as the defining series of our generation, because it's not so much a focus on the war, it's a focus on people and the process of training and fighting they went through. Band of Brothers, and sorry John, Fury.
Dear, oh dear, never mind.
So moving over to John's choice.
Okay, well, I suppose I should have said A Bridge Too Far, but actually the film, which I think is my favourite war film, is Kelly's Heroes.
Oh, I agree.
It's one of Peter's favourites.
Absolutely. It's simply because it's not about the Second World War at all. It's about the 1960s Vietnam, but I just think it captures that kind of atmosphere and feel and that kind of anti-war kind of sentiment which was growing out of that period. I mean, it's a great film anyway. It's a great hoot and so on. But and TV series, the one that I grew up with, which really captured my imagination, was Secret Army, which I watched. I mean, now I look back on it, and you see anything, it's so po-faced and takes itself so seriously. But when I was 10 years old watching, I thought, this is fantastic, really, really good. The only other thing I would say as an extra, I'll slip an extra one in, was the TV film Churchill and the Generals, which is Timothy West as Churchill, and you see him interacting with Roosevelt and Brooke and so on. When I saw that, I was about 12 or 13, and that kind of moved me on from the Airfix kind of approach. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but seeing the high-level strategy kind of stuff and the big decisions at Casablanca and so on. That's really good as well. I think.
Am I allowed another one?
Of course you
Well,
are.
John's gone back to his childhood, a few years after me, of course. My one was Colditz, the whole Colditz story, the series. And it's very interesting. A few years ago, I introduced my own boys to it, and they were taken up with the intensity of the whole story, and this idea that we seemed to be overwhelmed and overplayed by the Germans, and yet we, as individuals, I mean, there's a little bit of mythologizing here. We fought back, and that's the great thing about Colditz.
Thank you, chaps. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We did bump into Guy Walters as well, but as you'll hear, the Centaur tank cut us short.
Oh God, I'm afraid it's the same one as everybody else. It's Where Eagles Dare. It's so predictable that I like it. But actually, the reason why, it's not because of Clint, it's not because of Richard Burton, it's because of Ingrid Pitt. I fancy her rotten. She was the finest actress, and also she was the Holocaust survivor as well. So that film meant something to her in a way that it didn't mean to the other actors.
Well, the tanks have started, so I think we'll cut that one short. Peter Caddick-Adams is up next. Just a quick one for you, Peter. Apart from Kelly's Heroes, what's your favourite war film?
Great. Well, I should start off by saying woof woof. That's my other dog impression, because really I'm Oddball or Kelly or Taddy Savalas or whoever you want. You see, it's almost impossible to get away from Kelly's Heroes. And we look at war films in terms of their accuracy, but with Kelly's Heroes, you go into flights of fantasy and all the rest of it. Gosh, where on earth do I start? First war film that sort of springs to mind is probably The Longest Day, because so many of us were brought up on that, and we love We love famous people in uniform portraying a figure that we know, which is why A Bridge Too Far works so well. And it's not, it's not Brian Horrocks who carries the day, it's Edward Fox, and we all know and love Edward Fox, and so history sort of gets transposed. So but we want to get away from Cornelius Ryan dominating the piece. A bit of sort of violent revolution, perhaps Sam Peckinpah, also filmed in Croatia, Cross of Iron.
That's a good one, yes.
So that's sort of leaping out. And the other one I like, which is made for television rather than big screen, is D-Day: The Countdown with Tom Selleck, which for anyone who hasn't seen it is an absolutely brilliant war movie, and I think that counts as a movie because it's there as a single.
Of course.
And of course, Monte Cassino. The film that is yet to be made, for which I'm a historical consultant, and John Irvin, who did things like Dogs of War,
Hamburger Hill, one of my
and
favourites.
Hamburger, absolutely, and commissioned me and started the film of Monte Cassino ball rolling, and has sort of rather forgotten about it. So I think that's got to be my favourite film because it's around the corner and it'll be my screenplay.
Well, you heard it here first, folks, and thank you to Peter. Up next, Saul David, and then we'll go into Jack from the Royal Naval Beachhead Commando reenactment group.
So we're joined by Saul David, who has been a guest on the show, and we covered Cockle Shell Heroes with you. So we want to ask people, what is your favourite war movie?
Well, I've got a few, but definitely up there is Charge of the Light Brigade. Now, I know there have been a few different ones, so I'm talking about the 68 version with Trevor Howard, because when I was writing the biography of the Earl of Cardigan, I just had Trevor Howard's face in my mind all the time, and it was made at such a great time in the 1960s. It was a little bit of an anti-war feel of it. There's certainly a kind of it's written really off the back of the book The Reason Why, so there's definitely a kind of anti-aristocracy, a bit of a sort of class struggle thing about it, but despite all of that, Trevor Howard's just fantastic. And I couldn't, as I say, I couldn't get his face out of my head while I was writing the book.
Classic Cardigan, he really is.
I mean, the best, really, of all of them. Having said that, some of the other films didn't feature Cardigan quite as heavily.
No,
so
the Errol Flynn one certainly doesn't. It's got some sort of
stereotypical
staff officers, I think.
Exactly, and they of course the Nolan character, who I think Errol Flynn plays, doesn't he?
Yes, more or less. Yeah.
Nolan, who sets the ball rolling, but the real key to the story, the guy who leads the Charge of the Light Brigade, Nolan being killed right at the beginning, and Cardigan, allegedly or actually in real life, furious that that he's basically forced the whole thing.
The 60s movie does a really good job of sort of showing that tension of him trying to, Nolan sort of realises he's made a mistake. Whether that happened or not, I don't know.
Well, there was a historian actually who wrote a book, I don't know, a while ago, who didn't believe that he had made a mistake, actually argued that the Charge of the Light Brigade was not an error as far as Nolan was concerned. In other words, Nolan was trying to finally get the brigade to do something aggressive, because he was a great proponent of cavalry tactics. But that's the usual debate. What is not in doubt is it's a great film, and some of the cinematography is just fantastic. I don't know where they filmed it. I think I heard somewhere that it was filmed. Was it in Romania? They might have filmed it.
Eastern Bloc, I think.
Yeah,
we're definitely going to have a lot to talk about when we cover that one.
Somewhere in the Eastern Bloc. Anyway, hopefully we'll have a chance to chat about that at some point.
Fantastic. Yeah, I hope so.
That's great. Jack, explain who you are.
So I'm part of the Royal Navy Beachhead Commandos. We reenact a bunch of guys who was very, very crucial during the war. They were pretty much the first guys on the beach on any Allied landing. So they would land, secure a beachhead, and then run the beaches. As part of that, we've started going back from the landing to pre-landing stuff. So we stood here next to two Mark I Star canoes.
Yeah, which Jack has built himself, which is absolutely insane. What gave you what was the nucleus of the idea to build?
So we got given a fixed skin single-seater canoe that was used for military training in the sort of mid-60s, and it was just really good fun. So I thought, well, I'd like to try and link this properly into the Second World War. So I, funnily enough, on Facebook Marketplace stumbled across a collapsible frame. Okay. And so that's a civilian frame made by a company called the Tyne Folding Boats Company, and they made this frame from sort of the early 30s through to the mid 50s. During the war, the military took this civilian collapsible canoe and brought it into military service. So they, the initial one was called the Mark 1, then they strengthened it a bit, Mark 1 Star, strengthened it further, and it was Mark 1 Star Star. They also added some sponsons on the outside to give it a bit more stability, and a few other little tweaks to make it more seagoing. So I bought this frame and thought, well, I'll just make a skin for it, how hard can it be? Bought myself an industrial sewing machine and set to. Long story short, and many fluid ounces of blood, sweat and tears, we've got a working canoe. Shortly after this, we found another civilian model for sale in a slightly better condition. It had a skin, but it still needed some fixing up, and so we fixed that up too, and we're slowly bringing them up to the military spec.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. You know, we saw them yesterday. You were paddling out on the stream there, and you know, it's just very reminiscent of those scenes from the Cockleshell Heroes where they start, you know, getting in the canoes for the first time. It just reminded me of that.
Absolutely. I mean, these ones are slightly different models of the Cockleshell Heroes. So you had the Mark 1s, which were fully collapsible. They were a frame with a skin over the top. And then you had the Mark 2s as used by the Cockleshell Heroes, the Royal Marine Boom Patrol. And they were like a plywood base and a plywood top and then a canvas skirt that just sandwiched them together. But so these ones were used by the COP, which is the Combined Operations Pilotage Parties, as well as the SBS. Yes. They both sort of split out from the same point.
And I'm asking everyone before, well, obviously it's on brand for the show, but what's your favourite war film?
I think it's got to be Kelly's Heroes, actually.
It's a favourite, isn't it? It's a great one.
It is a great one. It's just so ludicrous and it's got so many excellent characters in it. Yeah. I mean, I do love the Cockleshell Heroes for obvious reasons, but knowing the subjects, I can see the errors in it.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm a strong believer in that war films don't need to be accurate. They're films at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they get people interested, but sometimes you just can't look past certain inaccuracies.
No, you sound like you'd be great for the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is that you get it gets people interested in, and also you can pick out certain things. So, for example, the Cockleshell Heroes film, that was a really good way for me to figure out how they'd have got off a submarine into the canoe. And there is pretty much only one way of doing. Well, you can put it on the casing of the submarine and trim it down, but if you're going to get in off the side of a submarine, there's only one way to do it, and so that was really useful for me, and equally getting in and out of the canoe from the water as well.
I bet they never envisaged the film being used to show someone how to do it when they filmed it.
No, and we're yet to try getting in and out of the canoe from the water. I was planning on doing it. I bought a wetsuit with me. Right. But looked at the water and decided otherwise. I'll save that for another time.
A wee bit cold. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Jack.
You're welcome, thank you.
And we recorded our thoughts on the show and everything that happened when we were driving back on the Sunday. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. And over to me and Matt. So we've just got just got onto the motorway, going home from WarFest, and we thought we'd just record our initial thoughts on the way home.
This is our first mobile podcast.
Yeah, it is. Wow, yeah, ad hoc. So, I mean, we had a blast, didn't we, Matt?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was everything I hoped it would be, and a bit more, actually. I can't believe how many people I've met in the last 2 days.
Yes.
Like, it must, over the last 18 months, obviously with lockdown and everything else, we haven't seen anyone.
No.
And then all of a sudden, you're on stage in front of 600 people, and you're meeting everyone that's been nice to you on Twitter and chatting. It's mad.
Matt hit the nail on the head. It was insane. You know, we got to the show later than we wanted.
Traffic was a nightmare.
Yeah, and everyone was like, well, welcoming us in and making sure we were okay, And then we thought, oh no, we better set up our tent, make sure we've got somewhere to sleep after the evening's festivities. And I've never had to set up a tent so quick.
No, it was a bit of a nightmare actually.
It was a bit. We cut it a bit fine, but we were all ready. And then we were backstage, and they said, "Oh, Al Murray's gonna introduce you," and we were like, "Oh, fantastic!" And that was, that's not something you have every day. So it was amazing. And then
it was a really lovely intro as well.
It was really nice. He was so kind, and really had nice things to say, which was just weird to hear. It's
a bit surreal.
But it was fantastic. And then obviously we went on stage and did the quiz, and it was an absolute blast.
I've never been that nervous ever. I don't think. That was a big crowd, and there was a lot of logistics to get that right, wasn't there?
Yeah,
getting everything sorted out. But the number of people that came up to me and said really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we had a lot of well wishers, and it was really nice. People that we know off Twitter, and some of our fantastic Patreons, coming up saying,
what an experience.
Yeah, and the team that won, the Pioneer Corps, they know who they are. They were worthy winners.
Yeah, and the scores were really good.
Oh,
it was out of 50, the winners got 42.
Yeah.
The lowest was 14, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it was.
And we had mostly mid-20s, mid-30s, didn't we, really?
Yeah, I think so. It was, and then, there was a point in it, wasn't there?
Yes.
Which was something. You can't believe it.
We had tiebreaker questions ready.
We did, just in case.
Yeah.
We would happily have put them to the tiebreak, but luckily we didn't. I thought if we'd have had any, if we'd had a real issue, we might have got chased out of town, but luckily we didn't. But it was amazing. And then obviously the weekend we just got to, sitting in some amazing talks.
Yep.
And just find some guests that we've talked to. I'll pepper them through probably this show.
Still processing it, really.
Exactly. It's all,
gotta be honest.
Yeah, it's crazy to just think. We started the show nearly a year ago now. Next month is our 1-year birthday, and we never thought that we would be doing something like this.
No, we didn't think we'd be on a stage in front of 600 people.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Asking, questions about war films.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just, it's surreal, but it's so great.
It's
really
amazing.
is.
It's so good, And
so, what did you get up to outside of the talks and everything else?
Chatting to people. Well, I actually got to. This will be up your street, Matt. I actually got to hold a piat for the first time.
Oh yeah. Airborne Assault Museum.
Yeah, shout out to them.
They brought along an actual piat that was dropped into Arnhem, but apparently seemingly unused.
Yes.
Must have got stuck up a tree or something. I don't
probably,
know.
Yeah, maybe a canister.
Yeah.
The guy was like, "Oh, I said, "Oh, I've never been this close to a piat before." And I mentioned Matt and stuff, and they know Matt. And he was like, "Well, you better rectify that and pick it up." And I was like, "Oh, okay then." And I thought, looking at it, you think it's all hollow,
it's little, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really small. I'm thinking that's tiny.
It's smaller than a boy's anti-tank rifle. Smaller than a bazooka.
All the pictures make it look huge.
Yeah, they do actually.
And when you see it in Theirs Is the Glory, when Dixon just trundles off to sort of go and shoot that panther, it looks like it's light as anything.
Yeah, it's nothing to him.
No, and yet my legs were buckling a little bit.
It's 36 pounds.
Yeah, and it just makes you think how people like Major Kane, who quite famously took out a lot of stugs with one at Arnhem.
Yeah.
And you're doing that under the most severe adverse circumstances, and you're tired, and you've been shot at, and he had his, he was absolutely exhausted at times. I think, how the hell did they do that?
Yes.
Gives you. This is why things like the show are great, because it gives you that extra little bit of real touch in history, and you can really feel how it can be for people.
I mean, how often do you get to pick up a piat?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for me, it's semi-regular.
Yeah, Matt's day job, of course, but for someone,
Yeah, but for
for me, it was
people that don't work in the field. It's a great opportunity to pick up something like that.
Yeah.
And fair play to the Airborne Assault Museum for having it on display.
Yeah, it was amazing. I managed to pick up a few copies of some rare films. So it was a great little store. I forget the name of the company. There was a great little bookstore there outside next to the food stalls, and I managed to pick up Yesterday's Enemy, Theirs Is the Glory on DVD, and Objective Burma, and I got James to sign it because obviously he came and talked to us.
He did,
talked to us about the film.
That was very, very kind of him.
Really nice.
Yeah.
So what did you do, Matt?
Oh God, I just mingled and chatted to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I spoke to some of the reenactment groups that were there. Got a lot of video for the YouTube channel, Armourer's Bench. The highlight was having a paddle in a World War II Royal Navy canoe.
Yes. Yeah, those guys were great, weren't they?
They were. The Naval Beach Masters, they were really nice guys.
Yeah, they were so knowledgeable.
Their interpretation was of Royal Navy Beachmasters and Commandos.
Yeah.
And one chap had restored Jack was his name,
yes.
Original World War II Royal Navy canoes.
Yes.
A Marmont Star, I think they are.
I think they are,
And
yeah.
he's done an amazing job.
It's incredible,
and
isn't it?
to get to sit in a piece of history on the water and then paddle around.
Yeah, yeah.
It was incredible.
Didn't Al Murray was like, you need to get in?
Yeah, Al had just been on the water with them, and he saw me come up and he said, Matt, you've got to get them to get you in one of these canoes. And I was like, Al, yes, I would love to get in one of these canoes.
Oh, I wasn't around when that was happening, but
I know, I couldn't find you.
I
You
know.
had your phone on airplane mode.
Oh, I was chatting to some old friends of mine. That's what's been great about the weekend. You know, not only been able to chat to some new friends, but chat to old friends too. Some people I used to know when my dad owned a Dodge weapons carrier back in the day, and the Dunkirk 1940 Museum in Chatham. And I had no idea that it was Debbie and Paul who actually curate the museum. So it was great to catch up.
Passing a US Army truck.
Oh yeah, it's a GMC, man. That is.
There we go.
Yeah, but it's been great, hasn't it? And we're looking into doing some events with some people who we've been able to chat to ourselves. We've been inspired by the show, and we think the next step for our podcast is doing our own little events.
Yeah, it'd be really nice to put on a film night or something somewhere.
Yeah, I think that'd be really fun. But we really hope that they put on another one of these.
Oh, I really
I mean, how
great.
good was it?
It was great.
And it's so great to be able to walk around and turn a corner and there's one of your favourite historians, and you can just go up and say hello.
You couldn't move for bumping into someone, really.
No, you couldn't. Yeah, I mean, the amount of PhDs in that field, probably incredible. But it was something else. How many amazing vehicles were there to see?
Oh my God, the Garrison guys with their 25-pounder troop, amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean,
one of them, he caught me as we were leaving, and he was like, "That's nothing. We can do even better than that."
Oh
I was
gosh.
like, "My word,
Wowee. And I finally got to see for in the flesh. Finally got to see a lot of Bedfords, which was
many
really
Bedfords.
something. OYs, my mind's gone blank now. It's been a long weekend, but there was a lot of beddies there.
It was an OL, wasn't it?
OL. It was a QL as well.
Sorry.
Yeah, QL. It was just great to see and be able to take some photos close
and
up.
a mini Bedford.
And a mini. Oh, the chaps who had the Royal Navy Commando reenactment group. They had during lockdown. One of their members, I think it is Jack.
Yeah, I think it was.
Who had the?
He was a busy boy during lockdown.
Oh, he was. Yeah, I got a chat with him actually. But he had made a scale Bedford QL, which was amazing. That's so cool, and it was nice to see friends of the show as well. So we knew Rich Fisher was going of the
Rich was doing. Rich was with Monty's Men, who were doing some stuff.
Middlesex, wasn't they?
Yes, they were Middlesex. Yeah, and Rich was there with his Vickers, which is always a crowd pleaser.
Oh yes, nothing he doesn't know. He's so knowledgeable. But it's great to be able to see. A group of guys who look the part and know their kit and know their stuff and walking around. It adds to the show, doesn't it? It's so nice. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think what vehicles were there we can run through for everyone. There was a T-34-85.
Yeah, Sherman.
A Sherman. There was
3 or 4 universal carriers.
God, yeah. One of them was a T16.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Ford one, wasn't it?
The Ford one, yeah.
Yeah.
There were a Comet and a
Crusader and a Cromwell.
Was it a Crusader?
Sorry, a Centaur.
Centaur
And a Cromwell.
That's the one I always forget about.
Yes.
With those sea tanks.
Yes, they do. You start the forgotten one in a way.
Yeah. What else was there? There was a hell of a lot of Jeeps.
Yeah, a lot of Jeeps. Some 25-pounder guns.
Oh, 4 25-pounders and a Sexton.
Oh yeah! Wow, that's Sexton. Come on, you could walk up a little stairway and have a look inside, couldn't you? Yeah. And there was a Home Guard reenactment society there, Oxfordshire Home Guard,
with a 2-pounder.
And they had a 2-pounder. Wow. You know, I think they fired it at one point.
They did. They fired it a few times, and it was the loud. Well, it wasn't the loudest gun because the 3.7 centimeter anti-aircraft gun was the loudest.
Yeah, but
which was phenomenal.
It went off with a bang, didn't it?
Never seen one of those before.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 2-pounder is
That's something.
Cool little gun.
Yeah. You know.
I did a video on one a few years ago. I got to look at one up close, but I've never seen one fire in person, so that was amazing.
Yeah.
And they were all firing black powder cartridges as well. So the smoke they were creating, obviously it's not correct to what was used during the war, but for spectacle.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you feel that shockwave, don't you?
Yeah.
The 3.5 inch in the evening going off.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, that's loud, isn't it?
So loud.
Wow.
So impressive.
So did you catch any talks that you really enjoyed?
Yeah. I really enjoyed the 10% failure.
Oh, that was good.
With Peter Caddick and
Market Garden chat.
Yeah, and John Buckley.
That was good.
That was a great one. I enjoyed Saul Davids.
Yeah, that was something.
Saul's was really good.
Saul was great, and I really liked Andy Chatterson's chat.
I was about to say
on the auxiliary units. It's really, really interesting. And then, I mean, there was almost too many things, wasn't there?
Honestly, though, I didn't get to see half of the talks that I wanted to because I was too busy chatting with people. And, and you know,
so many nice people to talk to. You try to get to one talk to another talk, and you just get sidetracked chatting.
Yeah.
And and it's not a bad thing. It was so nice.
No, it wasn't.
You know.
But there's some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, there really were. And it was nice to just have a beer with everyone, wasn't it?
It was.
Really, really nice.
Nice atmosphere.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're on the drive home now, and we hope everyone, well, if you're listening to this, it's probably a few days after, but hope everyone got home safe. We want to thank Tony and the team for being so hospitable to us. Thanks to Alan James for their hospitality too. Really nice chaps, really nice to meet them finally.
It was
really nice. And we hope you put it on again so we can come back next year, bigger, better, and more war filmy. Thanks for listening, everybody, and hello to all the new listeners that we picked up over the weekend. We're really glad to have you on board. Watch this space, there's plenty more fighting on film on the way. And thank you for listening, and as always, support us on Patreon, find us on Twitter, find us on Facebook, follow, share, like the pod, and catch us next week when we have Saul David on the Cockleshell Heroes. Bye everybody, have a great week.